Mr. Sabia, I want to make sure I understood your answer to a question posed by Mr. Majumder, in which you, as I understood you said that the ethical standards that apply within the Government of Canada, and specifically to this Prime Minister, are more robust than those standards that apply in the case of the institutional investment world. Did I get that right?
I would say they're as good or better.
As good or better. So I want to ask you, in follow-up to a question that Mr. Hardy asked you, which you didn't give a direct answer. It's very straightforward, and that is, where in the institutional world is there a situation, is there an example where a subordinate screens their direct boss for conflicts of interest? Just an example, please.
Well, I think you mischaracterize the relationships between, for instance, in this case, the head of the public service and the Prime Minister. The public service in Canada...
Mr. Sabia, you're a subordinate of the Prime Minister. You serve at his pleasure. He brought you in from the outside. You were not within the civil service. You were effectively a political appointment.
Well, wait a second. I do not regard myself as a political appointment.
Well,
you're entitled to your own conclusions,
you just
Mr. Cooper.
You just said before I opened my round that you're serving because
Mr. Cooper, the point
Mr. Carney asked you.
But Mr. Cooper,
Carney asked you, and he could fire you, couldn't he?
And I look forward to whenever that happens. But Mr. Cooper,
you made an assertion that
order.
the ethical standard is higher as it applies to this Prime Minister, and I just asked you,
well, I said
give me an example.
I said it's at least as
where
good.
a subordinate.
So I'm intervening here for the interpreters. We've got to go back and forth. Let's answer the question, ask the question.
So let me answer the question.
Go ahead, Mr. Sabia.
Mr. Cooper, you continue to make an error. This is not about me as an individual. This is about the engagement of the breadth of the public service in the administration of this screen. Those are two entirely different things.
Mr. Sabia, you sign off ultimately on whether the ethics screen is invoked or if it's not.
But
the buck stops with you.
Yes, but that is the result of extensive work across the public service by a set of engaged public servants acting in the public interest.
But you ultimately make the decision, and you answer to the Prime Minister.
It is not the same thing.
How much? Two more minutes. So, again, you haven't provided an example, and therefore I would submit your assertion that the standard, that it is more robust, simply doesn't hold water. And I want to ask you about the involvement of the Prime Minister's Chief of Staff. Clearly a political appointee, clearly someone who answers and serves at the pleasure of the Prime Minister. He also signs off on the invocation of the ethics screen. So when you make a decision, because as I understand you first make a decision, then what role precisely does the Prime Minister's Chief of Staff play with respect to that decision? Because as I see it, on the form that you've provided, it also requires his signature. Do I have that right?
Well, we are both administrators of the Prime Minister's screen.
Jointly?
Yes.
And so, for example, if you made a decision, as you put it, and you then passed that decision on to the Prime Minister's Chief of Staff, and he disagreed with that decision, what would happen in that case?
I think in that circumstance, which has not arisen, I think in that circumstance, the only viable course, if he and I disagreed about the application of a screen, would be to go to the Ethics Commissioner and say, make a decision, and that we will abide by whatever your decision is.
And that hasn't happened, as you said.
That has not occurred.
But that's not part of the process. That's just something that you would do as a matter of practice, so you say.
that would be the logical way to handle a situation of that kind, to go to an officer of Parliament and to say, we disagree, you make a decision and we'll abide by it.
But otherwise, there would be no involvement of the Ethics Commissioner.
No, as I said, on several occasions, the Ethics Commissioner and his staff
You
is
sometimes
included.
consult the Ethics Commissioner, but ultimately, when you make a decision...
Hey, I'm going to have to finish it there.
2.5 minutes. I'll see if I can get through it. The Ethics Commissioner wants us to include the appearance of a conflict of interest and that there should be a red flag raised. This morning, Radio-Canada stated that for the Prime Minister, Mark Carney, the Gulf region is seen as a partner that could be as significant as some Asian countries. Brookfield announced launching a global project in AI, and they will be partnering with Indivia as clerk of the Privy Council. Do you think that that's a coincidence, an unfortunate coincidence? Do you believe that the average Canadian could see promoting that region? And again, Brookfield is making an announcement. There must be talks. You don't think that there's an appearance of a conflict of interest there for the average Canadian? No? No conflict of interest. No appearance. The Prime Minister didn't do as you did, Mr. Sabia. He did not divest. And now he's promoting a region, and on that same day, he's promoting Canada. Yeah, he's promoting Canada, but at the same time, he's promoting a business that will be having activities in a region. Well, it's Singapore, the Middle East, the Prime Minister is trying to promote Canada because we need investment. That's at the heart of the future of the country. Does the Prime Minister keep contact with Brookfield? How many times has he communicated with them since becoming Prime Minister? I would say that the answer is no. In your view, you're saying you don't think so, but is it possible? Have you examined that possibility? Do you say to Mr. Carney that he cannot speak with Brookfield? He is very aware. And did you say that to him? Because earlier you said that you imposed the screen. Will you impose to him that he can no longer speak with Brookfield? It wouldn't be necessary for me to do so. In discussing things with the Ethics Commissioner a few months ago, the Commissioner told him just that. And for that matter of the Middle East and Singapore, we regularly examine his schedule, who he'll be meeting with. Is there a potential conflict? So we have a rigorous process, and we look at his agenda to ensure that there is no conflict. Thank you, Mr. Thériault.
Question for you. And I've been keeping notes of some of your testimony throughout the course of these 2 hours. One of the comments that you make is that you work within how the current legislation functions. And herein lies the problem, sir, and that is, as it relates to the general application rule, the Conflict of Interest Act is so open to that you can actually drive a truck through it in terms of that general application rule, because you gave examples about how a policy decision is made on the part of the country, and then there are very specific layers that happen as a result of that. The problem is that, you know, we're in a situation right now where some of the witnesses that have come before us have said we've never had a prime minister as conflicted as this. And here's the problem. The problem is that on some of these major policy announcements, Mr. Thériault referred to artificial intelligence, modular homes, heat pumps, small nuclear modular reactors, and, for example, the lumber business. There is, within the Prime Minister's portfolio that's being held, as we all know, in a blind trust, deferred stock units, options, and bonus incentives related to that, notwithstanding the fact that there are stocks within there. And I know you said you're making a serious effort, and the difficulty in that is under the transition fund, there are many, many entities related to that. So my question to you is, for the sake of the confidence that Canadians have in their designated public office holders, whether it's the Prime Minister or the Minister, you mentioned that you divested yourself of Brookfield assets because you did not want that to be perceived, real or otherwise, as a conflict of interest. Do you not believe, sir, that when a person runs for Prime Minister and is that conflicted, should they not divest themselves of all of the assets to ensure that we can have public confidence, restore public confidence, that the person who is holding the highest office in the land is not benefiting from decisions that are being made, whether they're on a general basis, given the policy announcements that have been made, and when you layer it down to the specifics, there is the potential for profit to be made. Do you not believe, sir, that complete divestment is the answer in this case? And I understand there's tax implications, but we're talking about the confidence that Canadians have in the office holder in the highest office of the land. Do you not believe divestment should be the option?
Honestly, Mr. President, I think I come back to something that I said earlier. And to be blunt, I don't think it's that simple. I don't think it's that simple because I think, given the issues facing Canada today, this is a time when Canada needs to be able, and it's not just the Prime Minister I'm talking about, I'm thinking about ministers, I'm thinking about other senior people coming into government, where we need access to the best talent that this country can provide. I think that's fundamentally important because this country faces a set of challenges, the likes of which we probably haven't faced since the Second World War. That, I think, requires careful judgment about striking a balance between, on the one hand, the very legitimate point you make with respect to confidence and accountability and transparency, which is what the screen is all about, and why we are being so diligent and so careful about that screen, because I endorse 100% the importance of those principles in the eyes of Canadians. On the other hand, we also have to be able to get the best talent that we can because Canada needs it. And therefore, I would urge you, it's your decision. You folks got elected. I didn't get elected. It's for you to decide what that legislation should be. My job, as I've said, is I run the system that exists today. Your job is to say what should it be, and is the current system adequate? I would just urge you, in thinking that question through, to not create a set of barriers that make it impossible for talented people to come to the aid of the country at a time when we need access to the best talent that we can possibly have. And I can assure you, Mr. President, because I live it, that attracting people into the government of Canada today is not easy. There are many barriers, be it compensation barriers, be it post-employment guidelines, be it X, Y, Z. It is not easy. Now, we work within those rules because those rules are important and we do the best we can. But having access to the best talent that this country has to offer, that seems to me to be, I'll put it this way, an extremely important priority because we got to get this country going and moving forward.
And I would submit to you, sir, that we can draw that talent without the backdrop of whether an individual who is in that office, whether it causes Canadians to wonder and causes parliamentarians to wonder whether they are personally benefiting from being in the position that they're in.
And that goes, Mr. President, to the rigor with which we run this system. And I can assure you, I mean, if I've done anything in
The rigor, Mr. Sabia, comes with complete divestment. It's the only way to deal with this. And I don't want to argue with you this point, but Canadians have to have confidence in the person who is running this country that they're not benefiting from it. And if for the reason you say, for the virtuous reason that a person makes to want to run as a designated public officer or the Prime Minister, then that should be part of the backdrop of the decision-making process they make in deciding to run and come back, as you say, to save this country. That should be the number one consideration, in my view, in that decision that they make to come back. That they come back for a virtuous reason, not to profit and not to benefit. And we as a committee are charged, and I agree with you on this, and we've heard from lots of witnesses who've talked about this loophole within the Act that needs to be challenged and changed. And we are going to have a decision to make. But again, we're not trying to do this for any one individual. We have to do this in order to protect the integrity of the office of the Prime Minister and to ensure Canadians that decisions aren't being made in the best interest of any individual, that it's being made in the best interest of the country.
Well,
so
Mr.
I want to
President,
thank you.
What I would say is I think we both share the view and we share the goal of protecting the integrity of the country and continuing to reinforce the confidence that Canadians have in the institution of the Government of Canada. I don't think there's any disagreement between me or you or other members of the committee that's very important.
And the only way to do that is to change this massive loophole within the law as it relates to the general application rule. So, Mr. Zabia, I want to thank you for the time that you spent with the committee. Thank the committee members. I also want to thank the clerk and the analysts for today.